Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or for those of you who are listening to this episode in audio only format, welcome back to my podcast. You can also find my content on Spotify, Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts as I have released for almost a few months now, the content of this channel in a podcast format as well. For those of you who are here for the very first time, my name is Rux. I'm a Western tropical astrologer, and in my practice, I use the whole sign house system. You can also find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com for personalized consultations and readings. If you go into the services section on my website, you can see that there are a few different types of readings that you can go for, and there's two consultation formats. The first one is live via Zoom video call, and the second type of service is audio recorded only reading, and you can send me your questions beforehand. Today we are going to be talking about the full moon lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Sagittarius on the 26th of May at 11:13 GMT time at 5 degrees 25 minutes of Sagittarius. We're first going to look at the astrology of the day at a global and collective level, and then we are also going to move into updates for each zodiac sign. By the way, you probably have heard me mention this many times, but I'm gonna say it again just as a reminder. If you listen to the update for your sign, I also recommend listening to the update for your rising sign. So really find out what your time of birth is so that you can generate your natal chart and see what your rising sign is, because your rising sign is your window to the world. Traditional astrologers called it the helm. What's happening on the 26th of May? Well, oh my days, a lot is going on. So those of you who have personal planets at around 5 degrees of mutable signs, so especially between 0 and 11 degrees of mutable signs. The mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. You folks are likely to feel the energy of the eclipse the most because it is triggering your mutable placements by tense aspects, so by squares or oppositions. And sometimes it's quite easy for us to, let's say, feel like the smoother aspects, the trines, the sextiles, it can feel quite easy to, I wouldn't necessarily say ignore them, but if something's pleasant, if something's not really ruffling any feathers, then we just go along with it. We don't necessarily jump upon it. We don't necessarily act because of it. But if you have mutable placements in your chart, especially around 5 degrees, then I'm gonna say your world may really be rocked. Now, because the lunar eclipse is a full moon, essentially, it's a full moon, it's a supercharged full moon. Its symbolism is very strongly associated with that of a culmination, a peak, and an ending, which can feel very abrupt, very sudden, because eclipses are the universe's way of pushing us in the direction of our destiny. And sometimes we can, let's say, lose our track, maybe become stagnant, maybe become stuck, maybe become too fixated on or too attached to certain parts of our life. And then the energy of eclipses comes in and sweeps the slate clean by removing things, especially at times of lunar eclipses. So it says, you thought you could rely on this part of your life? Well, let me tell you, I have news for you. There is abrupt change unfolding, and now you have to start fresh. Now you have to build anew. Sagittarius, the Sagittarian energy is very strongly connected with beliefs and with our belief system, with what we consider to be morally right or wrong, with how we connect the dots, with how we find meaning. It is associated also with religion. It is associated with academia. It's associated with travel. It is very likely that at a collective level, the energy of the eclipse is going to indicate some sort of release and letting go of an outdated belief system, or of several outdated belief systems that we may have considered collectively as being correct, as being right, as being meaningful, and all of a sudden we are faced with the reality that the old belief system is no longer serving us because the day-to-day mundane aspects of life don't add up and don't match up. It can be very painful to let go of an existing belief because so many of us are incredibly attached and identify a great deal with a certain worldview, with a certain life philosophy, with a certain religion, with a certain belief system. I mean, people think of religion as if it's only something that is faith-based. Consumerism is a religion. Capitalism is a religion. Atheism is a religion, you could say. So we may be faced with a sudden realization that a part of our religion, and for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, I'm using the inverted commas, doing something with my fingers. We could be faced with the realization that our religion is no longer aligned with reality. And we have to move on and let go and start learning fresh, start learning things anew, and be put in the position of the apprentice and the student. What's happening in the sky is the following. At the time of the eclipse, we have a big T-square between the moon in Sagittarius, the sun in Gemini, and Jupiter in Pisces. Now, both Pisces and Sagittarius are concerned with religion. Sagittarius more with the idea of morality, Pisces more with the idea of transcending mundane experience. So there is a very high chance that we are going to be called to transcend an existing belief and to find compassion and understanding both for ourselves and others. Because we are being asked to leave behind some of our old world view. Now, both Gemini and Sagittarius are also connected with movement and travel and ideas and stories. So there could be some sort of feeling of ending and culmination regarding a, let's say, a period in our lives where our way of moving, our way of traveling, also our way of connecting with others, of sharing ideas, of sharing stories, of finding meaning in connections, we are experiencing an ending to this period, which is quite abrupt, quite sudden, I would say. There's also the possibility, because Jupiter is involved, that we may be feeling excessively, let's say, optimistic for the future at this time, and possibly lose track of some very logical, realistic, tangible, pragmatic details. Why do I say this? Because Mercury, which is the ruler of one of the signs triggered by the eclipse, is in a tense aspect to Neptune. It's in a square to Neptune. The information that we're getting at this time is fuzzy. There could be a feeling of confusion around travel, confusion around movement, confusion about the laws and the rules of movement, confusion about what is morally or ethically right or wrong to do in terms of movement, as well as in terms of socialization. At the time of lunar eclipses, there can also be elements that were in the shadow coming to the surface. So there could be some sort of unexpected elements coming to the surface connected with what's been going on in the past 6 months from the new moon solar eclipse happening on the 14th of December 2020, connected to travel and education and also the legal environment. Whatever it's going to be, it's probably going to take a lot of people by surprise, especially at the times of lunar eclipses. I recommend not holding on to the past, and especially not holding on to a past belief at this moment in time, or not holding on to past information. So let us dive into the updates for each zodiac sign. Now, if you are an Aries sun or an Aries rising, the lunar eclipse happening on the 26th of May, and I would also look at the week before the week after, because it's an eclipse and we can feel its rays a lot earlier than it actually happens. The eclipse is triggering your 9th house, 3rd house axis. Now, Aries is a sign that blends really nicely with both the energy of Sagittarius as well as Gemini. So the news that you are getting around 9th house, 3rd house matters. So it could be travel, it could be movement, it could be a course of study. Even though it can bring some sort of unexpected element in your life, maybe some sort of abrupt ending of a course of study. Maybe news or updates related to whether you've been accepted to university, whether you've been accepted to a new course of study, whether you've also been accepted, let's say, in your application for a visa, in your application for residency, in your application for something that is connected with a court of law. You seem to be taking it really in your stride and finding a way to work with it. Now, what is happening here is we also have a T-square as part of the eclipse to Jupiter in Aquarius in your 11th house of, Jupiter in Pisces in your 12th house. What is going on at this time? There could be some sort of spanner thrown in the works connected to plans that you had made around traveling or plans that you had made around studying. My recommendation is to go with the flow and not resist this unexpected element, because it looks like what you're going to have to do is maybe redo some documents, maybe send in a new document, maybe go over things that you thought you had learned in order to take your education to the next level. Now, if you are an a Taurus, if you are a Taurus sun or a Taurus rising, on the 26th of May, give or take a week before, a week after, the full moon lunar eclipse is lighting up your financial axis, the 2nd house, 8th house axis. The eclipse is happening in Sagittarius in your 8th house of shared resources, of other people's money, of intimacy. And it is also forming a T-square with Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be in... Let's see, in Pisces in your 11th house of long-term plans. What is going on at this time is, my dear Taurus, you may hear news, some unexpected news connected to maybe some sort of debt that you need to pay, or some sort of unexpected expense that you need to take care of that may actually be interfering with some of your longer term plans. This could also be a time when you receive news connected to a lump sum of money, maybe an inheritance, maybe insurance money that you were expecting, or maybe not even expecting, but it's landing in your lap, and now you have to alter your long-term plans because of it. This could also be a time when something that is happening in your partner's, if you are in a partnership, something that is happening in your partner's financial sector also seems to implicate you and to dictate how you are going to go about your finances for a longer period of time. Maybe you have to reevaluate the way you budget your money. You could also be receiving some sort of unexpected payment at this time. But there are some strings attached. The strings could involve doing more work. It could involve maybe putting some of your long-term plans on the back burner. So it's not necessarily the smoothest, let's say, eclipse, even if you are receiving money at the time. Now, if you are a Gemini sun or a Gemini rising, oh my days, you guys, you folks, you along with Sagittarius are obviously going to be the stars of the eclipse, so you're probably going to feel its influence the most. The eclipse is triggering your first house, seventh house axis, so there could be some sort of culmination and some sort of unexpected but long-term development happening in your partnership sector. I would recommend looking back. So first of all, I would recommend paying attention to the entire period around the 26th of May, also a week before, a week after, and also look back at what was going on in your life around the 14th of December, give or take a week before, a week after, in 2020. Because this eclipse is bringing to a peak, it's bringing to an end some of the themes that may have emerged in your life, in your partnership sector, at the time of the solar eclipse in December last year. This one is forming a T-square with Jupiter in Pisces in your 10th house of career and public status and public reputation, my dear Geminis. So what's happening here is the following. You could have some sort of unexpected news to share with the world regarding your partnerships at this time. Some of you could be getting engaged. Some of you could be hearing something quite sudden and unexpected about your partner, and possibly about their plans for the future. Some of you, my dear Geminis, may be releasing an existing partnership. So you could be taking a decision around this time as a result of some sort of unexpected elements coming to the surface that you are no longer served long-term by an existing partnership in your life. So it could result in saying goodbye to a partner and having to reassess who you are outside of the relationship, who you are outside of this partnership that may have been very strongly also connected with your image out into the world. Now, if you are a Cancer sun or a Cancer rising, on the 26th of May, give or take a week before, a week after, the lunar eclipse is happening in your 6th house of day-to-day work and daily habits and routines and behaviors. And it is also triggering your 12th house. So it is triggering what we call the axis of service, because the 6th house is the house of paid service, of how we make ourselves of use in a utilitarian way. And the 12th house is the house of charity. I would recommend, Cancerians, that you look back at what was going on, what emerged in your day-to-day work sector, as well as in your health-related, let's say, behaviors or a routine around the 14th of December in 2020, give or take a week before, a week after, because this eclipse is a culmination of those energies, and there's probably going to be a mirroring between the two. You could be saying goodbye to a job at this time, my dear Cancerians. You could be deciding that you are giving up on a specific habit at this point in time, because it is no longer serving you, and you may actually experience, I gotta tell you, some sort of inflammation in the body that makes you take this kind of like mental decision of leaving behind a daily habit, a daily behavior, something that was part of your routine, because you can no longer live with it. So there's a time to release so that you can experience better health. And so that you can experience more peace in your life. And it seems to be a certain behavior or routine that you may have been very invested in, let's say from a belief system perspective, my dear Cancerians, and at the same time you're being faced with the reality that it's not healthy. Some of you Cancerians may also hear news of someone leaving your team at work in particular, or of some duties and responsibilities being taken away from you. Now, if you are a Leo sun or a Leo rising, my dear Leos, you are one of the signs that is not going to be, let's say, so unpleasantly disrupted by the energies of the eclipse. Why? Because your energy blends really nicely with both Sagittarius and Gemini. You're forming harmonious aspects to these signs if we use the whole sign house system. And if we use whole sign aspects, the full moon lunar eclipse is happening in your 5th house. It's triggering the 5th house, 11th house axis. You could be hearing some sort of unexpected developments, something coming to the surface, something coming to light regarding your romantic life, regarding a romantic partner, regarding a romantic relationship. You could be, if you are single, you could face someone or you could meet with someone who has the potential to become your romantic partner. You may also feel like you have to let go possibly at this time because lunar eclipses are bringing the energy of release with them. You could feel like you have to let go of maybe a creative project or a passion or a hobby because it is no longer aligned with your long-term plans or because physically you don't have the time for it anymore. You could have a bit of a last hurrah. This can also be a time when you are saying goodbye to some friends in your life, and it is truly making you, let's say, feel as if you are being faced with the deeper realities of your life. You are being faced with the deeper facets of partnerships and relationships, and things are getting serious. Things are getting real, especially when it comes to an intimate partnership, because the eclipse is forming a T-square with Jupiter and Pisces in your 8th house of intimacy. So it's time to get serious. It's time to get real. It's time to get intimate with a partner. And you cannot keep things light and easygoing any longer, no matter how much you might try to. Because eclipses also, especially lunar eclipses, bring things to the surface. This eclipse for Leos might bring news to the surface connected to the area of children. So there could be some sort of unexpected news on that front. Now, if you are a Virgo sun or a Virgo rising, the full moon lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, give or take a week before, a week after, is happening in your 4th house of home, family, roots, the past, and private life. But it is also triggering your 10th house, which is the house of public status, public reputation, and career. So this eclipse really shines the spotlight on your private life versus your public life. And it also shines a spotlight on the parental axis, because the 4th house, 10th house is also connected with parents. I would recommend first looking back at your life in December 2020, around the 14th of December, to see what was going on in your home sector, in your career sector, and in the lives of your parents at the time, because there can be a mirroring and a closure of the themes that emerged in December in your life, my dear Virgos. This can be a time when you catch up with parents and there could be some sort of unexpected news that parents give to you. It could be a time when you also feel like you are leaving behind part of your past, part of your childhood. You're making peace with the past in a sense. It could also feel like a time when you are letting go of your current living situation, because the 4th house is also connected with living situation, as a result of what's happening in your long-term partnership sector, because the eclipse is forming a T-square with Jupiter and Pisces in your 7th house. So as a result of the development of a relationship, you could realize, oh gosh, I need to find a bigger house. I need to move. I need to start thinking about how my living situation also impacts my partner. There could also be, I'm going to put it out there, there could also be news coming from the home sector and from the family sector, Virgos, that affect how you carry your business, how you go about your professional life, and you may need to reassess how you go about your work-life balance, or the balance between private life and public life. Or you could have, let's say, some sort of unexpected development happening in your home-related environment that also requires you to divulge this to bosses or to the people that you work with. My dear Libras, Libra suns and Libra risings. On the 26th of May, the full moon lunar eclipse happening in Sagittarius is triggering your 3rd house, 9th house axis. This is the axis of movement, it is the axis of learning, and I also recommend looking at the week before the week after the eclipse, as well as looking back at the 14th of December last year, give or take a week before, a week after, because this eclipse is likely to bring some sort of closure or mirroring of the events that unfolded in your life, connected to travel, connected to foreign lands, connected to movement, connected to siblings. So the lunar eclipse is a point of closure. It brings ending, it brings a peak. It can also bring some sudden, unexpected endings in your life. It can also point towards something that you are called to release in your life at this time, my dear Libra. And it is forming a T-square with Jupiter and Pisces in your 6th house of day-to-day work and health. Now, I gotta tell you, this could be a time when you are very abruptly finalizing some sort of course of learning connected to a job, connected to what you were doing on a day-to-day basis. This eclipse could also bring news related to you having to my apologies, learn a completely new process of how you're going to do your work. So if you thought you had the process all kind of like fleshed out, and if you thought you knew what your day-to-day work is going to look like, and if you thought you had mastered, let's say, the collaborative aspect of your day-to-day work, then it can be that you are faced with the reality that the process is changing. What you thought you knew is no longer up to date, up to speed. You may also at this time find out that you are called to travel at the very last minute for some sort of work-related matter, or also for a health-related matter. Now, if it is connected to work, then you may hear that you have to really take care very suddenly, very abruptly, very quickly about something that is connected with paperwork and contracts and documents, and especially anything that has to do with foreign affairs, maybe your visa, maybe your residence application. It's not something that you were necessarily prepared for, but it does seem to be something that you are called to take care of straight away. Now, the ruler of the eclipse is Jupiter, and Jupiter is placed in your 6th house of day-to-day work as well as health. It could be that you are called to leave behind some sort of belief that you held regarding your health or regarding your daily habits and your routines, my dear Libra. Now, if you are a Scorpio sun or a Scorpio rising on the 26th of May, the eclipse is happening, give or take a week before, a week after, in Sagittarius in your 2nd house of income, and it is triggering your financial axis, 2nd house, 8th house. First and foremost, look back and have a think about what was going on financially for you in December, around the 14th of December, when we had the solar eclipse happening in this part of your chart, in the 2nd house in Sagittarius. This could be a time, my dear Scorpios, when you have to say goodbye to an existing source of income, or when you realize that actually a talent of yours that you relied upon very heavily in order to make money needs to be updated, or needs to be changed, or needs to be upgraded. It could be something that you are very, let's say, mentally attached to, very morally attached to. It may have been part of your personal life philosophy. It may have felt like something that gave meaning to your life, and all of a sudden, it is questioned and it needs to be upgraded or updated. This can also be a time when you have some sort of taxes that are coming up at your door and saying, pay us because we can wait no longer. And they do seem to be connected in probably in some shape or form. Maybe with something related to entertainment, maybe something related to children. It could also be something related to a passion project or a hobby of yours that needs to be paid off and that requires you to maybe fork a significant amount of money at this time. You could also be finalizing some sort of division of assets at this time, and maybe like dividing your assets between yourself and a contractual partner. If you are a Sagittarius sun or a Sagittarius rising, the stars, you are the stars of this eclipse, and you're probably, along with Geminis, going to feel it the most, especially if you have a lot of personal planets in Sagittarius, and especially around the 5-degree mark. So look at the week before the week after, the 26th of May, in order to understand its themes, and also look back at what was going on in your life around the 14th of December last year, Sagittarians, in terms of your identity, in terms of your direction in life, in terms of your path in life, in terms of what we call the hero journey. What's going on at the time of the eclipse is the following. It is triggering your first house, 7th house axis. It is forming a T-square with Jupiter in Pisces in your 4th house of home, family, and roots and living situation. So Sagittarians, some of you may hear some sort of unexpected news connected to your living situation, connected to your home and residence, coming from your partner. Some of you Sagittarians at this time may be, well, a few things could happen. If you are single, then your attention may be drawn to someone in your life who has the potential to become your long-term partner, or you may be asked to get really serious about a specific partnership in your life because you can no longer bide your time. You can no longer beat around the bush. You may also feel like your identity has evolved and changed dramatically and very quickly as a result of a relationship that has emerged in your life, and this relationship also seems to influence in some shape or form the place that you live in, your living situation. You could be talking about movement. Now, I gotta tell you, some Sagittarians that are in a couple, they may hear that their partner wants to move. Eclipses are very tricky. How? Sometimes it can feel like we have no say in them. So if there is someone exiting your life at this time, especially a partner, then I wouldn't necessarily hold on to it or hang on to it, because you're going to have a new beginning in the partnership sector in June. If something needs to change about yourself and about how you approach a partnership, my dear Sagittarians, I would also recommend that you deal with it humbly, and that you accept the fact that you are called to evolve if you want a relationship to function in the long run. Now, if you are a Capricorn sun or a Capricorn rising, the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius is happening in your 12th house, and it's triggering the axis of service, the 12th house, 6th house axis. I would look at the week before the week after, the 26th of May, to understand its window of influence. And I would also have a think about December 2020. What was going on in your work life, and also what was going on for you spiritually in December 2020. Did you have some sort of spiritual revelation? Did you take up a new spiritual practice? Did you take up a new spiritual routine? At the time of the eclipse, my dear Capricorns, there could be, well, I have to say it. There could be some sort of unexpected news making its way to you, connected to the way you work on a day-to-day basis. So you may hear of the fact that your team is being restructured. You may hear that maybe a work-related project that you were very invested in is coming to an end. You may also be called to deal with the fact that something that you have been maybe doing on a day-to-day basis, and the way that you were working with people in your team and the way that you were collaborating is no longer, let's say, the way forward. It's no longer the way in which you can carry on working. You may also be faced with a very, let's call it, strong part of your shadow at this time, something connected to what brings you meaning in life and your personal life philosophy that seems to be outdated and seems to be no longer serving you. There could also be news, I gotta say, because the 12th house is also considered the house of hidden enemies. There could be news of maybe someone at work not necessarily having your best interests at heart, and you could be hearing some sort of like gossip or some sort of painful messages related to this person who, rather than having the courage to speak to your face, they were going behind your back. But the interesting thing here is that you are called in some shape or form to reassess the way you work, and maybe to reassess the way you address people, and maybe to reassess the way you negotiate, and maybe reassess the way you network, especially in a work environment. Since the apex of the T-square formed by the eclipse is going to be Jupiter in your 3rd house of communication. Now, if you are an Aquarius sun or an Aquarius rising, my lovely Aquarians, on the 26th of May, give or take a week before, a week after, we have a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in our 11th house of long-term plans, goals, dreams, and friends. It is also triggering our 5th house of entertainment, fun, and pleasure, and joy, and romance. Look back, Aquarians, at what was happening in the area of long-term plans for you and goals for the future in December, especially around the 14th of December 2020, because there could be some sort of reflection of those themes at the time of this eclipse. This could be the time when you very suddenly, very abruptly have to end a project in your life, have to end some sort of creative project in your life, Aquarians. That's because it may no longer be lucrative. The lunar eclipse is forming a T-square with Jupiter and Pisces in your 2nd house of income and talents. So you could realize, actually, there are better ways and more lucrative ways and more efficient ways to make money and to also pursue your passion rather than carrying on as usual. What could also happen at this time, my dear Aquarians, is that you may hear some very sudden, unexpected news from a friend of yours, someone who you are very close to, and the news that comes from them is maybe challenging your value system. You may not necessarily be in agreement. You may have thought that you knew this person, and all of a sudden they throw this bombshell upon you. It can also feel like a time when you are releasing and letting go of one of your dreams and long-term plans. And as painful as it might be on an ego level, at the same time, it is making room for new creative pursuits and creative endeavors. I'm also going to say, Aquarians, because the eclipse is triggering your 5th house of romantic love, you could hear some surprising news, some secret coming to the surface about a romantic interest of yours. And this seems to be, once again, also directly challenging your value system. Now, if you are a Pisces sun or a Pisces rising, on the 26th of May, give or take a week before, a week after, the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius is triggering your 10th house, 4th house axis. So the axis of public life versus private life, career versus home. I would recommend looking back at the month of December at what was going on in your life in these sectors, and especially what was going on in your life in the career sector, in the professional development sector, because this eclipse can bring a sudden culmination or closure of a professional chapter in your life. Let me tell you, if there's someone that I do see probably walking away from a job, from a career path, from a professional path, and you could be doing this for good, it's Pisces, especially Pisces risings. You could hear news that a boss is leaving your current workplace, and you might be thinking, I don't want to work under new management. I'm going to look someplace else. I'm going to go in search of pastures new. There's also something about you being called to reevaluate, especially if you are in a leadership position, Pisces, especially Pisces risings. If you are in a leadership position of any shape or form. It could be that you are called to reevaluate your leadership style and to make some tweaks when it comes to your leadership style and when it comes to the approach that you have had up until this point to your professional path. It could also be that something that is happening in your, let's say, professional sector. It could be a change of career. It could be a new job. It could be leaving a job behind altogether, maybe even switching industries altogether. Also bears a strong influence upon where you live and upon where you choose to live and upon the environment that you call home. There can also be some sort of news connected to the path and the image that you had of one of the parents. It could be either parents, but the 10th house is generally associated with the mother. I side with traditional astrologers here, which may require you to maybe move at very short notice, or maybe travel at very, very short notice. You are called to leave behind also a certain worldview and a certain philosophy connected to your professional path at this time. Maybe something that has served you for a very long time, but something that is no longer accepted or held in high regard, my dear Pisces. Keep me posted, everyone, as to how eclipse season is playing out for you. I love reading the comments and I love reading the updates from you. And I know I may not respond to all of you, but trust me, I do read every single one of them. There's a challenging energy about this eclipse around our long-held beliefs. And my recommendation is to embody the archetype of the student at this time. Embody the archetype of the apprentice. Embody the archetype of the curious, youthful one who is open to trying out new things, because this is a very, very strong theme that is activated at the time of the eclipse. Don't forget, you can also find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com for consultations and readings. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram, my handle on Instagram is @RuxUnbelievable in one word. So it's RUX Unbelievable in one word for more kind of like daily and weekly updates as well as the life updates. Best of luck to you, and I will see you next time.